We're back at the diner. We finished the main course and now we're going to have dessert. Um, I'm actually going to put in some of the side panels to the windows tonight. Uh, these are all metallic paints. They might not look like it, but at this point they're going to reflect a little light. Um, that's a good thing. They might not look it right now because they're wet, but once they dry, you'll see even the black, the Payne's gray I'm using, has got a metallic base to it. In other words, it will reflect light. I'm doing that because the diner, some of the metal parts of the diner have that same feature. So here we go. These are all different shades of silver. One is pure silver, one is fluorescent white. And my problem is trying to make sense of all of them. So here we go. I'm going to do two things tonight. I'm going to put some more of these red markings on top of the restaurant. We got them started on this side. We're going to put the rest of these in. But right now I'm going to put a couple of the silver tones. Now the inside I have to be careful because that's actually a bit of a lighting. So I can't really put that in, but I can put some of these areas up here. I can't use reflective light there because that's really not reflected. I'll put a little bit of this up here. I also have to be careful about this particular part of the structure. When I drew it, I was trying to be careful and draw it exactly to the specifications of the photograph, but I'm going to change it a bit. Unfortunately, this building's a little dilapidated, and part of this, the owner must have put some brand new flashing on top of there, and it's a little crooked. What I'm going to do, for his sake, I'm going to straighten it out like crazy. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be really nice, and we're going to make him happy. So on the side, I'm going to do that specifically. I'm specifically not making it realistic. I'm going to make it better. Let's face it, that's what every artist should do. So we're going to put a little silver here. I'm going to make it a little bit darker underneath that. The reason I do that is because if this is a specific little piece of sign that raises, let's say, even an inch or two over the rest of it, it's going to cast a shadow. So I really have to indicate that, otherwise it just doesn't work. Now the inside of this, like I said, that's a fluorescent light. I'm not going to use reflective paint on that. I could very easily do this. The piece of metal that goes in between these things is reflected steel. I'm probably going to do one of those. So let's start off with the side, a little bit darker. Let's go with it. The initial side, the paint was kind of rough. I didn't do a very good job making it very finite. Now I can, because I can go over what we did. And really, and again, remember, I'm painting at this point, it's vertical. It's very easy for me to paint a straight line vertically. I'm going to go over this, really make it nice and straight, nice and taut. And you can see I'm painting over the black. Not really very easy to do, but I've done this over a couple of years, so actually more like 30. So I got used to it. And that's turning out good. Let's say the next one's going to be a little bit darker. Even this dark paint that I bought, it's got a bit of reflected metal in it. So what I'm going to do is go over that, mix it with the dark, so it's not totally black. Just like that. The next layer is going to be a bit on the light side. We're going to go back into this, a little bit lighter. This is silver now. Got to be careful about that. So we go right into the silver. just a tad lighter, but the reflection is going to be there. This is the lighter one right here. I just want to get really one of these in tonight to show you what's involved. It's not as easy as it looks. I'd probably be better off doing this on my own time, but I just want to show you people what it's like. It's really quite hard. We're going to make the dark one again. We'll go inside the dark one to do this one. Go over the black to make it a nice even line. Need a little bit more paint on my brush to make it work. I'm probably going to get a different brush. When you have a big area, you should have a brush that holds a little bit more paint. It's okay for smaller little nooks and crannies, but now the next one is going to involve a lot more paint. I'm going to use the medium-sized brush. It's going to hold a little bit more paint. We're going to put a little bit more silver in. This is fluorescent white, but I'm mixing it in with the silver. We're going to put that in right there. And see what happens. Here we go. I think when I get this one done, I'm going to go right to the red triangles on top. That's coming out pretty good though. You can see the result. Now part of it has a darker reflection on the bottom, but I'm not going to put that in tonight. It's just a little bit too difficult to try to make it perfect. We're going to put a little bit of this more accurately on the other side. Right here. Make the line really straight and taut. And that looks pretty good. I could go back over that with black to really make it tight, but that looks pretty good. Now, I think what I'm going to do is do some of the reds, finish those up. We're going to use the medium-sized brush again to start off. We'll use a tight one to do some of the actual really sharp points. Right now, I started one off today. We're going to do one more right next to it. The paint's dried already. It's amazing, but acrylic is great for that one purpose. If this was oil, I could not do this. I couldn't touch it. It would be all over my arm. So we'll do another one of these triangles. I'm going to get the fine brush to do some of these lines really accurately. Like for instance, that comes to a real sharp tip. I don't want to use a big brush because chances are I'm not going to be able to do it justice. But let's see. Got to get all the paint off. Let's get a nice fine brush to do some of the fine stuff. Here we go. It'd be nice to say I could do this whole thing with one brush, but not going to happen. Sometimes you have to use 2 or 3 brushes to get all the individual parts of a painting. And I think you should have a handful of brushes the whole time you're painting. Do you ever see those old movies and there's an artist holding a palette in one hand and a handful of brushes in the other? That's true for a reason. You shouldn't do a whole painting with one specific type of brush. Then again, I can't really see myself using 16 brushes. On the most, I use about 4 or 5. I don't see the need to have a whole armful of brushes. For one thing, it gets to be confusing. It gets to be messy. You're better off having a good, consistent 3 or 4. Here we go. Second one's emerging nicely. It doesn't look dark, but believe me, one thing about acrylic, once it dries, it gets darker. That's a funny thing about acrylics. For the most part, acrylics do dry darker. Oil, on the other hand, pretty consistent. Whatever you put down, that's the color it's going to be. Acrylics tend to dry just a tad darker. Second triangle. So we got the windows, the black in them anyway. Did a pretty good job on that. We're going to get the rest of them tonight also. The depth that happened is incredible. Just really is. The depth is, to me, the windows just look like we've created a flat surface, and now all of a sudden there's a depth to it, and I love that. When I put people in there, it's really going to make it come to fruition. Right now, it's not quite, the perception's not quite there yet, but it will be. Like I said, I mentioned before, I'm going to put my daughters in there. Over the years, I've taken them there several times. Several times. From when they were very young little girls to now when they're adults, and it's kind of fun to see them in the same background. It's kind of neat. They have memories of that place, which I really find it's nice. It's nice to actually have a building in town that you could bring your kids to, and it's always going to be there. They have memories of it. I think it's great. Not too many restaurants stay active. They change ownerships. They change locales. Oh my God, you name it. But this diner is like a bedrock of the community. It's there, and thank God it still remains to be there. We're very fortunate to have a diner in our midst, and really a quality place. Okay, second triangle, done. Let's start the third one. We're going to make, remember what I said, the palette under these lights turns real dry, and you have to refresh it with water all the time. Even though the bottom of the sponge is wet, the top of the paints is dried. Here we go again. Now, if you notice, some of these triangles are infringed upon by the top of the structure. It unfortunately is accurate. That's the way, I really did a good job of doing it faithfully to the photograph. It seems that part of the roof sags a bit. I'm going to try to give it as much clearance as possible. But, you know, there's such a thing as reality, and there's such a thing as making it Disney-like. I'll try to work a nice medium. I want to make it look really great. On the other hand, we have to pledge a little bit of allegiance to reality. It's a cool diner. We can't make it perfect, though we'd like to. I kind of like a little bit of weather-beaten look. It would, you know, if it was a diner, it wouldn't be perfect. That's part of the charm of it. Like I said, also, when I'm all done with this, which I think a couple of months down the road, I'm going to put little shocks of light in the windows to show that it is glass. Usually a 45-degree angle will do that. A little bit of white in places could be really nice. Notice remember I said at one point we're using a 50% solution, 50% pigmentation to a little bit of moisture, probably like 40% water. I don't use anything else. I don't like putting solvents, fixatives, extenders, all the above. They ruin the actual intensity of the paint. in my humble opinion. I'd rather the paint be real true. If I want to change the color, I want it to be intentional. I don't want it to be as a result of putting in an extender or anything like that. I like playing with the paint. I like the truthfulness of the color. I will not lose that intensity. I don't care. For the sake of it not drying as quickly, well, you know what? It's just a matter of putting a little water in it and playing with the game. I'm pretty good at that. I'm really happy with these turning out. I don't paint too many buildings. I draw them mostly. And in truth, I did draw this building first. But a diner really lends itself to being painted. There's colors in it, and it just pops out better. I'm going to have fun with the background. I'm going to do a lot of, I'm thinking about that. I'm being very careful with how I'm going to approach the background. I'm probably going to use a nice overcast sky. Because let's face it, the street itself is nice and dark and gray. Not exactly earth-shatteringly bright. So I'm going to really play the sky up, probably make it a nice bluish overcast sky. Yet, I don't want to make it ridiculous either. I don't want to make it look like a bit of heaven just landed in Plainville. Though, quite honestly, I do think of the diner as a great place. Heaven, there we go. We got the fourth one in. Let's get down to this. Halfway through with the triangles. We got the windows today. For the most part, the darkness. I'm going to put the highlights and other things last. I just want to get the darkness in more than anything else. I'm not really going to focus too much on the metallic aspects. There's a little bit of trickery to that, and I can't honestly do that in the confines of a half hour. It takes a little bit longer, and there's a little bit of trickery involved. I could do some of this stuff, and I'll do that for your sake, but it takes a little bit longer to get reflections of light. I think it's going to be cool just to see what goes on with what I got here. So we have that going. Now, we're almost through with the triangles. I could do, depending on how much time I have left, I have 2 more to get going, but I like the effect already. It's already adding a lot of depth to the whole building. Let's see what I have for time. I love these triangles. They're turning out good. The great thing about acrylic, it dries the moment I put the paint down, which is not true for oils. It would take a long time for it to dry. Even under studio lights, it would not be something I want to put my hand on. Acrylics are almost dry 10 seconds after I put them down, especially with all these lights on them. Nice. I'm very happy with the way this is turning out. I think I'll be able to get a lot of, I'm going to do a lot of detail work on my own, because that is very boring to watch. It's like watching paint dry. And I'd rather do bold, immediate stuff like this to show you. You can actually see the results. It was like when I painted the bricks. I did the first set of bricks on camera, and I did the second set on my own, because it would just be so hard to sit there and subject you to watching me paint bricks. This was fun. And believe it or not, you're going to really be impressed by this. I'm going to do it all over again. I like the way I did this better. I put a gray mortar between each one of those bricks. I used a white mortar there, and I like the gray better. It's more truthful to what mortar looks like. When I was about 13 or 14 years old, one of my first little jobs was working for a construction company in town. I used to haul bricks around to the guys putting buildings together. There was about 4 or 5 of us kids that did that. So I know a lot about what's involved. And I appreciate the art of building. It's fun. The thing I really got out of this was an appreciation of how whoever designed this, how he was careful to make sure that the bricks weren't too similar. He'd have a different color for a different area. I love that. To me, it makes such a difference, even when you're painting it, not to have the same brick color around each one. It makes for such a great painting. And the depth of it is going to be incredible. We are approaching the end of the triangles. I could do a couple of things with some of the signs on the inside. That might be fun. For instance, there's a little menu sign, specials, what have you. It's kind of nice to list, or I'm not going to try to get every word in. My God, I don't think even if you're standing outside the diner, your eyesight's that good. What I want to do instead is just give an inkling, a feeling of what it must be like. I don't think it's possible to do everything just perfectly. I'm amazed I got the Main Street logo as carefully as I did. That was a lot of work. And I'm really happy I did that. Let's face it, you drive into town, boy, I tell you, there's nothing as eye-catchy as that logo. It's almost a little bit of folklore in town. It's a fantasy thing. I love it. Aren't too many buildings in town that have that eye appeal. Now, we have one triangle left. When I'm done with that, I'm going to start doing some of the stuff on the inside. So, we are running close to the end of this. I just want to get one more triangle in. I think we'll fit that in. I could also do some of the structure that holds the sign up. I think that's what we'll do. There's a couple of things that actually hold the sign up in back. If you notice, I left off one little piece of sign. Let's see if anybody out there notices. They'll drive by and they'll look, and they might actually be able to figure it out what's missing. Believe me, the next time you see it, it'll be there. I'm pretty good that way. Ow, look how nice that turned out. Geez, I'm amazed myself sometimes. Now, one last triangle. We just got a little bit more to do on this. I think a lot of the fun is going to be the metallic aspect of some of the background. It's not like regular gray. It's got to shine a bit. It's got to actually look like metal. And I kind of like that. I like creating an illusion. After all painting is an illusion. There's no way on earth we're recreating reality. We're creating an illusion. All art, for that matter, is an illusion. That's why I like it. I get a kick out of having people look at this and say, wow, it's just like the real thing. I like that. I get real joy out of that. Somebody asked me the other night if I was going to sell this to the owner. I'll probably sell him a Glige, which is a copy. I like the original too much. and I plan on doing as many structures in town as possible. I really enjoy some of the old buildings in town. And now that I realize I could do such a good job painting some of them, I might actually paint some of these old buildings. The black and white aspect is nice, but I think with modern technology, you can actually take a painting of a diner like this and make that into business cards. You can make it into a host of things. It doesn't just have to be for one purpose. I think it'd be great to have this on menus, and oh my God, there's so many usages. Well, we almost got the last one in. And what I'm going to do is try to put some of the stuff behind the sign. That shouldn't be that hard because it's really dark. And I don't have to worry about color too much. Man, I impressed myself. I actually did all these triangles and they look really good geometrically. They're right on the mark. My old high school geometry teacher would be proud of me. He'd probably still tell me, what type of angles are those? And I'd say, I haven't a clue. I didn't then, I don't now. All I know is that I make them look pretty good, and that's how I passed my geometry class, just by making them look pretty good. That's where I had it over a lot of kids. They could know the titles, and they knew exactly what number, what percentage angle it was. I just knew how to make them look good. Let's put some of the stuff in the background. I'm going to use a very dark but non-metallic color, because it's not metallic. This is more just simple gray, dark gray. And again, I want to pretty much wrap up this episode by doing the background. Some of these things are really nice. So here we go. I have to be careful. It's still a little bit wet in places, so maybe I'll just work on this side. That way I don't have to worry about touching it. It's a dark gray. It's not black. So what I'm going to do is do that. I'll just put a nice dark gray there. Yeah, I spoke too soon. I said that acrylic dries immediately. Well, tonight it didn't. Must be a little bit of humidity in the air. It's still not bad. If this was oil, it'd be all over my hands. Oil is a very disobedient type of medium. You end up covered with it. I'm going to put a little light gray in there. And again, we don't want a metallic gray. We want something that's non-glare. We're going to use a regular gray. What basically a regular gray is, I took the Payne's gray and mixed in with a little white. I want to thank everybody for stopping in and watching me. Hopefully the next time we'll get even more done and you could really see a lot more of the building. And every time you drive by and you'll say to yourself, boy, I saw the guy painting that on TV. Hopefully. It's coming out pretty good. I'm happy with it. Like I said, I'd like to do even more structures in town. Anybody have an idea out there for a building they'd like to see painted? Call up Nutmeg. Let them know. Again, I want to thank everybody for viewing. I want to thank Nutmeg for letting me do this. I'm having as much fun as possible. I love doing this. It doesn't bother me to do it live. Not really. On occasion it does, but not tonight.